Hey guys, welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. We got another little eye catcher for you today. It's a little animation. If you look in the middle of your screen there, we've got a call to action module. It's going to disappear in, it's going to appear, it's going to fill out that whole row right there. It's going to stay there for a few seconds. Of course, you can hover over it, you can click on it. When you hover over it, it's going to stay there as long as your mouse is on it. When you take it away, the animation is going to start up again. Then it's going to fill out that whole row once more. It's going to stay there for again about 3-4 seconds. Then it's going to fold back in itself and disappear out. And I've got a little row there with a little image hint in the background there. Really easy to do. So let's get started. I'm going to enable the Visual Builder. Okay, once enabled, let's go down. We'll delete what we've got going on here. I'm going to add a new row. I'm going to put a single column in my row. I'm just going to throw a call to action in there. And there it is. I'm just going to save that and we'll delete the row that's on top. Great. So I've got a little call to action module there. I'm going to go in there. Don't want quite as much content as that. Obviously put in as much or a little content as you want on yours. I do want a button. Button's not going to show up until we add a link for it just down below here. Obviously put your title in here, what you want your button to say when it shows up there, and your content right there. In the link, I'm just going to put a hashtag as a placeholder. I've got no real link. That'll make the button show up, as you can see. You can also have another link here that'll link this whole module anywhere that they click on it to something. You can have it the same link or a different link, and always best practice with links. If you're linking to your own site, open it in the same window. If you're linking off-site, open it in a new tab. That way your site's going to stay open. Great. Well, background-wise, I'm going to leave it with that generic blue. And again, of course, this is all up to you. Always find background under content. I am going to add a little image like I did before, just to make it a little bit more interesting. I think I used that one last time. And I'm actually going to blend it with that background color there, as it's a fairly busy image. Don't want this text getting lost. So I'm going to roll down to background blend down here, still on the image tab up there. I'm going to switch it to multiply. That makes that text a lot more legible to me. And you can still see that image nicely. Now these background image blends, they got all kind of different things that you can click on. Difference, you can get some crazy things going. Exclusion. One of my favorites down the bottom, luminosity down here. But for my purposes today, I think multiply will do. But do play with those, that you can get some wonderful effects. Great, well that's kind of looking how I want it so far. Just want to change that button a little bit. So let's go over to design, down to the button. Now you can make it any style you want. The only thing I'm going to change on this is I'm going to change that background color from a blue to perhaps an opaque black. So button background here. There's the black. I'm going to click on the field. I want to see some of that image behind there. So I'm going to drag it down about 50%. Great. And if you want to do a hover, you can hit the little arrow up there and do a different state for hover, different colors and what have you. I'm going to leave mine just as it is. Great. Okay, well, I'm going to be shrinking this thing down, so this writing is going to sort of spill out over, and I don't want to see anything once I shrink it down. So to avoid any overspill or overflow, I'm going to go over to my advanced setting. I'm going to go down to visibility. Here we've got horizontal and vertical overflow. I'm going to switch both of those to hidden. That way when we squish this down to perhaps 0 pixels or something, that writing's not going to fall out the side there. It's going to be hidden. Great. Well, when we shrink this down, it's going to get a lot deeper. So we're going to have to give it a height setting, because I really don't want it to get any deeper than it is. I just want it to shrink and grow and stay exactly the same size. And we'll do that all with code in just a moment. So I'm fairly happy with what's going on here. Let's actually create this animation. Now, still in our call to action, I'm still in the advanced tab. I'm going to roll back up to the top. We're going to use some custom CSS, and don't let that panic you. It's really easy. We're using the great freeform CSS tab here, which allows us to do more complex CSS without adding a code module. And they added it about a year ago. Fantastic feature. Now, to select this module, all I have to write in there is selector, S-E-L-E-C-T-O-R. Now I can target anything in this module. So let's open and close some curly brackets. Decide what we want to do with it. Well, I'm going to create an animation that makes it grow and shrink. So I'm going to say animation. Then we've got to give it a name, so colon. I'm going to call mine bgro for sort of background grow, my shorthand. You can call yours what you want, but that's got to be unique. I want it to run for about 15 seconds, 15s. I want it to keep rolling and rolling, so it's infinite. Not going to stop. Fantastic. We'll leave that just there. Okay, now we've got to actually create this animation called bgro, and we're going to use keyframes for this today. And we've done a few of these recently. So to build it with keyframes, I'm going to say @ sign, and the word keyframes. Then we need to give it the actual name we gave it above, which is bgro. Now we can open and close some more curly brackets and actually create an animation in between those two curly brackets. Okay, let's just drop down. I'm going to say at 0%, basically that means when the page loads, or the beginning of second one of our 15 seconds there, I'm going to open some curly brackets. I'm going to tell it I want it to be pretty much invisible. I'm going to give it a width of 0 pixels, 0px, which is pretty much invisible. As you can see, it's sort of shrinking down right now. It's actually doing its thing, so it's going to jump back and forth there for a minute. But when it does shrink down, we have to wait to the end of our 15 seconds. It's way too deep, way too deep. Look how deep that is. I don't want it that deep. I reckon that's about 220 pix. So I'm going to give it a fixed height by writing height, H-E-I-G-H-T, 220 pix. And a semicolon there when it shrinks down should say a similar height. We'll just wait for it there. And it should do it any minute. That's a little bit better. Still dropping those down just slightly. So it's maybe a little tall. Let's try 210. I'm not too worried about a little bit of movement. That's better. The reason I changed that is because those little blue boxes below, when it was shrinking down, they were being pushed down slightly, which meant it's getting taller than it was. That seems to work absolutely fine. But I want it to be in the middle when it shrinks down. I'm going to say margin, M-A-R-G-I-N, colon, auto, which will give it automatically the same margin to each side, which will pop it in the middle. That's better. And I actually want it to disappear. So I'm going to say opacity, O-P-A-C-I-T-Y, which is sort of transparency or see-throughness. Opacity over 0, which will be totally invisible. As you can see, it's sort of fading out, fading in, because we've only given it the one setting at the moment. Let's go to perhaps 20% and bring it fully back in visibility-wise. So I'm going to drop down again. I'm going to write 20 and a % sign. Open and close some more curly brackets. I'm going to say opacity 1, which is fully visible. So that should bring it back in when it gets to about 20%. Perfect. Now at 50%, 7.5 second mark, I want it to be full width. So let's do that. I'm going to go drop down one more. I'm going to say 50%. Open and close some more curly brackets. I'm going to put width, W-I-D-T-H, colon, 100%. So it's full width, basically. So we've got it rolling out now to 100% by the 50% mark. And I want it to stay full width for a few seconds, so perhaps let's go up to 80%. I'm going to drop down. 80%. We'll open and close some more curly brackets. And in there, I'm going to keep that width of 100%. I want to make sure the opacity is full, so it's fully visible as well. So I'm going to copy my opacity right there. Got an extra curly bracket there. Great. Well, that's doing exactly what I want it. It's starting off small and invisible. It's fading in at 20%. 50%, it should be full width. Perfect. 80%, it's going to stay 50 to 80% full width and full opacity. Then at 100%, I want to bring it back down to how it was at the beginning. So the easiest way to do that is just copy this one up here. Control C, drop down below the one we've just put in there. Paste it, Control V to paste. And I'm going to change that to 100%. So it's getting full width. It's going to stay there up to 80%. Then it's going to pull back in and start to fade back out again. Perfect. Just what I want. Now, just to make this a little more interesting, I've given it curved corners, and I've also put a little something in the background of the row itself. Just tidy this up so there's no gaps there. Now, I will put this CSS down below for anybody who just wants to copy and paste it. But I would suggest you write it out, because if you learn a little bit of CSS like this, it's very easy. You can take your editing skills way up to the next level. So I really do suggest you write this out and get used to writing CSS. It's a wonderful thing to learn. Okay, well, I'm happy with that. Actually, I'm not happy with that. I wanted to give it curved corners, so I'm going to go back in there. Doesn't really matter too much. I'm going to go Design, Border. I'm going to give mine about 25 pixels radius around there. By default, it does all four at once for you. If you want to get some weird shapes, just uncheck the chain. You can put different values in each corner. That's it. Now to finish off, I'm just going to put a little row behind there or something in the row, so we've got something to look at when it shrinks down. So I'm going to go into the row itself now, green tab. Put a background color in there. Background, again, always under content. I'm going to put my 2024 grey. Got a bit of a gap top and bottom. I don't want that. So I'm going to go over to Design and Spacing, Padding, top and bottom. Just put a 0 in there. It'll put the pix in. Hit the chain, it'll do the opposite side. We've got no extra space on our row there. The only other thing I want to do is curve out those corners just like we did with our module. So I'm going to go to Border. I use 25 pixels for that. Perfect. Now when that's shrinking down and coming back in, we've got something to look at. Just to make it slightly more interesting than a dark row that's empty there, I'm going to throw a background in there and blend it with that dark color again. Let's do that. I'm going to go over to background image. We'll find a little background image. Throw that one in. I mean, this is going to work fine on its own, just like that. Wait till it shrinks back down. That's okay. I'd like to kind of darken mine down a bit by blending it with that grey, just so there's just a hint of something there. And that's entirely up to you, but you know how to do that. Go down to background image blend and multiply it. So we've now got that, which is almost like a nighttime picture of that. And we've got our little call to action module flying in. There's only one more thing I'd like to do while we're in here. At the moment, that's great. It's working. It's flying in. It's getting your attention by animating. We can click on it, but even with our mouse on there, it's going to continue to animate. It's going to shrink back down on that. When they put their mouse on it, I want it to stop animating. And I want it to be full width and full visibility. And then it can continue when they take their mouse off of it. And that's really easy to do. We'll just save our row setting. Going to go back into the little module itself. Back to our little code here. I'm going to drop down. In fact, I'm going to copy this top bit, selector animation. So the first closing bracket there, Control C. I'm going to drop down. I'm going to paste it in there, Control V to paste. Right after selector with no gap, I'm going to put a colon. And then no gap again, and the word hover. And we've just created a hover state. What do we want it to do when they hover their mouse over it? Well, I want the animation to stop. So I'm simply going to write animation none. If I save that now, if I put my mouse over it, as you can see, it stops animating, goes full width straight away. So it'll still do its animation, but when they put their mouse on it, it's going to stay at full width for as long as they keep their mouse hovering over this particular section right here. Perfect. So I'm happy with that. If I take my mouse off, it's going to start the animation again. So let's save our changes. Save draft or publish if you're ready. And let's exit the Visual Builder. There's our little call to action there. There's that little animation happening. It's going to get your attention really quickly. It's going to wait there for a few seconds. It's going to shrink back in again and disappear. A few seconds again. It's going to pop in, do the same thing. Of course, we put our mouse on it. It's going to stop animating. It's going to be full width. We can click on the button, read the title, content, etc. Really nice feature to have on your site. As you can see, really easy to do. So I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you've got any questions, pop them down below the video. I'll do my best to answer them for you, or make a little demo video just like this one. Once again, this has been Jamie with System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.